a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, George R.R. Martin, I wanted to see what all the hype was about, right? I wanted to immerse myself in the lore, maybe sniff out some hints about certain revelations and mysteries. I'm gonna get right down to it. I'm gonna talk about the bad first, to get it out of the way. The second novella in this trilogy of novellas, The Sworn Sword, is the most dull, boring stuff I have ever read. I can't even imagine that it was written by George R. R. Martin. It's so fillery. It feels like a side quest. The Sworn Sword, absolutely a snooze fest. The only saving grace that it has is, of course, Lady Rohan Weber. Okay, she is the single character that saves the second story from being absolutely boring from beginning to end. My second gripe or complaint, okay, the third and last novella, The Mystery Knight. It also suffers from the same kind of fillery nature. It feels like a side quest almost, until the end when finally something interesting happens, okay? The first novella, The Hedge Knight, is actually the best. It's not boring. It's active. It's energetic. You know, immediately you are captivated. You are immersed. You are engrossed. Absolutely wonderful. The first one is amazing. The last two, the second and the third, are lacking. They're lackluster for the most part, unfortunately, right? Because, of course, I came in wanting to love this, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. I've heard a lot of praise. And after I've finished the main 5 novels, and after I've watched so many lore and theory videos, I wanted to read some more, right? And this, I can't, yet again, I have to mention this again, I have to repeat myself. I can't even conceive that this was written by the same person. And I know it was said that, you know, the writing is not as tight, it's a bit loose, it's not, the storytelling isn't as compact, right? Of course, but it's just, listen, here's the problem. There is just a lot of trivia. There is just a lot of nonsensical nothing. There is just a lot of descriptions about coat of arms and how their armor looks and what color their armor have, and, you know, a lot of jousting, an insane amount of jousting. We go from one jousting match or tourney to another. That's too much jousting, too many tourneys, George R. R. Martin. Okay, if you read these 3 novellas back to back, this book might make you want to think twice before touching some of George R. R. Martin's other work, right? It's an insane amount of jousting, bro. You know, so many descriptions about, oh, look at that coat of arms. It has 3 towers and 3 feathers, and the colors are this. And I'm just like, bro, nobody cares about this shit. Move on, bro. I know you like this type of medieval stuff. I do. But there has to be a limit. You have to set a limit. Like, I can't even remember a single name from all of these characters. You know, classic George R. R. Martin. A bajillion characters that nobody remembers. Outstanding. Again, the first novella is the best. The Hedge Knight is so great. You just fall in love with Duncan the Tall, all right? and you just care about him, and he's a simple person, but somehow, let's call it, he's a gentle giant, right? He's a gentle giant. He used to be kind of sketchy because he was raised in Flea Bottom, the worst of the worst, and he did some suspicious stuff when he was a kid, but he had to. But now, because this hedge knight, Sir Arlen, I think it was, he picked Duncan up, he taught him everything he knew, and Duncan became a true knight, honorable to a fault, and you like him, I like him, right? The Sworn Sword, the second novella, is for the most part an absolute filler fest, and thank God for Lady Rohan Weber, because otherwise it would have been a snooze fest. Okay, Rohan Weber, oh wee. Okay, she is probably the best character alongside Duncan the Tall, for obvious reasons, because she's a redhead and she has that special something. Okay, she got freckles, she has a long braided hair. I mean, what else do you need? Okay, and then with the Mystery Knight, the last in this trilogy, again, a whole lot of nothing until the very end, when we discover that there's this Blackfire rebellion, let's call it, but it isn't. So there's some intrigue at a wedding and some jousting, and again, it has this fillery vibe to it until the end, when shit actually happens and your attention is finally involved, right? And this will probably be my last complaint, because I had some expectations. Okay? Because I did a little bit of research before reading this, and I was led to believe that, we're gonna follow these two characters, Duncan the Tall and Aegon the Fifth, and they would have these crazy adventures, and they would have this insane relationship, and both of them would grow. And let me tell you, it isn't so, folks. It isn't so. Okay, this trilogy of novellas is a bit too overhyped for my taste. Okay, and this is the main complaint. Aegon the Fifth, the future king, he's a bit stale. Let me tell you, he's not one-dimensional, but in the first, in the second, and in the third novella, he is a bit bland. Okay, he is a bit bland. He's a bit subpar. I don't know what George R. R. Martin was thinking. You can make the argument that he's still a little child, but obviously, if you read the book, you understand that Eggy has a certain maturity to him. He has a certain intellect, a certain awareness, because he was raised at court and he was educated properly. So he isn't a usual 9-year-old boy, or how old he is. Okay? And yet, listen, this is how their interactions are throughout this book, throughout these 3 novellas. They're on the road. Dunk might say something. Eggy might respond sarcastically, and Dunky will threaten to give Eggy one of these against the ear. This is it. This is 95% of their interaction. And after the 20th time, it gets a bit boring. It gets a bit repetitive. It gets a bit monotonous. Now this is why I'm so perplexed, because George R. R. Martin does such an amazing job with Dunky the Tall. He is so developed. He's so 3-dimensional. He's an actual person put on paper, and yet George R. R. Martin fails miserably with Eggy. How is this possible? I don't understand this. To me, he has failed when it comes to, Egg. How is this possible? There's nothing to him in terms of character, in terms of characteristics, personality. I don't know, something, right? Their interaction is Dunk tells him to, I don't know, tend to the horses, clean his armor, do this, do that, and Eggy will either just do it, or he will be insolent, impudent, arrogant, and then Duncan will threaten to clobber him again, and then Eggy will do what he is told. And this is it. How can this be possible? I don't understand what George R. R. Martin was thinking. And I understand Egg is a child, but he has a lot to work with here, and George does not do anything with it. By comparison, Duncan the Tall is so developed, such a real person, and by comparison, the second protagonist, Aegon V, is almost nothing. Almost nothing. Somebody has to say this, because there is a lot of praise for this book and for these characters, and some of it is undeserved for obvious reasons. Okay? Dunk says something, Egg responds sarcastically, right? With arrogance, being impudent, being insolent, and then Duncan will threaten to hit him over the ear. And then Eggy will oblige and he will obey. And that's pretty much it for 95% of their interactions. Absolutely shocking to me. I'm amazed that something like this is passable. It's not passable, right? The relationship between Duncan and Egg, their chemistry, their bond, their interactions are repetitive as fuck, lukewarm, superficial, monotonous, bland, boring. Right? Like, listen, before they even speak, you can already guess what they're going to talk about, what their replies will be, and how it will end. You can already guess, right? You can already guess after a couple of pages. This is not good writing, in my opinion. It seems like, this is just my opinion, but it seems like George R. R. Martin didn't even try, right? It seems like Duncan is the actual protagonist, which he is, and Duncan is this shadow, almost shadow, and George didn't even bother to write him better. The back and forth, the relationship, the chemistry between Duncan and Lady Rohan Weber, that shit was electric. That shit was outstanding. I was hooked. I was so invested for obvious reasons, because it was done so well. Like, you didn't know what was gonna happen next. Their back and forth was crazy. Was crazy. You didn't know what was gonna happen next. You didn't know what the other was gonna say next. You were hooked. You were engrossed. You were involved, and you couldn't stop reading. This is the kind of chemistry that Egg and Duncan should have. They should have a more, how should I express this? They should have a more developed back and forth. Their chemistry is stale as bread. So it's such a one-trick pony, their relationship. Their back and forth is just do something. Maybe not. I'm gonna smack you. Okay, bro. Being arrogant. I'm absolutely perplexed. When I started reading this, I thought, like so many other stories, we have this older mentor, and then we have this young pupil with a lot of potential, and they would go on these journeys, on these adventures, and they would would face a lot of hardships, a lot of obstacles, and they would learn from one another, and their relationship would be rocky. They would have to earn each other's trust, and then there would be a hint of betrayal, but then each would realize that how much the other cared for each other. Something like this. If you expect this from Duncan and Egg, their relationship, you're not gonna get that at all. At all. At all. It's they almost learn nothing from each other. Their relationship, their bond isn't rocky at all. There are no moments when Egg is like, oh boy, should I really be following this giant jackass? And there isn't a single moment where Duncan is, this kid is fucking annoying. What am I doing here babysitting this prince, this arrogant prince? There's nothing. There's nothing at all. Think of all the stories you've read or watched about an older mentor and a young, arrogant pupil, and how amazing it was. This is not one of those. It's so stale like bread. I'm absolutely shocked that George R. R. Martin had this, oversight, this, it's a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity. It seems like Egg, so far, is this hollow shadow, this hollow dragon, if you would, and Duncan is this fully formed, three-dimensional protagonist, okay? At least we get some sort of inner monologues, opinions from Duncan. He is an actual person with opinions and thoughts of his own, no matter how simple he is, right? Whereas with Egg, we never go into his mind. We never really learn about anything about him, really. At all. Right? And I was just expecting this electric relationship between disciple and master, if you would. This electric back and forth. And in my view, there is almost no chemistry between these two people. Absolutely. Like, and this is another thing that is kind of bothersome. Egg is this arrogant, insolent princeling, but even his insolence, even his hubris is one-dimensional. Right? The only thing that he does is give these snide, sarcastic, or sardonic remarks. It's like, oh, do you really think so, sir? And Duncan is like, oh, you better watch it, you little prince, you're my squire. You say this, I'm gonna smack you with it. And I'm just like, bro, stop. Stop it already. Right? But of course, it's not all bad. In the last novella, The Mystery Knight, we kind of see a bit of development. Egg disappears for a while, and Duncan, even though he is hurt, he goes to search for him and finds him and fights for him and gets wounded. But yeah, it's good. But it could have been 1,000 times better. 1,000 times better. So far, most of it seems like filler. Most of it seems like a side quest, with a bit of lore sprinkled here and there. The only character I care so far is Duncan, and maybe a bit about Rohan Weber. Everybody else is forgettable. Some guy, Blackfire, at the end makes an appearance, and I'm just like, I don't care about this dude one way or another, right? And this is very interesting. There is this video. When I was doing my research, I stumbled upon an interview with George R. R. Martin, and it's titled How George R. R. Martin Came with, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Duncan and Egg. And he was like, he was struggling to write the second book in A Song of Ice and Fire. I think it's A Clash of Kings. So he had already missed the deadline with the second book in A Song of Ice and Fire. He was struggling. And some friend of his or an acquaintance, he was like, yo, I'm making a sort of contest, compendium, compilation of stories. Do you want to submit your story? And this is this is so George R. R. Martin, classic George R. R. Martin. When he faces an obstacle, he goes and does somebody else. When somebody dangles a diversion, a distraction, George R. R. Martin drops everything and he does that for a while, right? And it's so telling. It's so telling because, you know, and I don't mean to, insult anybody, offend anybody. It's just criticism, a little bit of criticism, because this is classic. This is a classic trademark of George R. R. Martin, right? When the going gets tough, instead of keeping the good fight and finishing the Winds of Winter already, wink, he goes off and does something. Side quests, filler, diversions, distractions, short stories, right? Instead of focusing on the main thing that everybody cares about. Right? And then people wonder why he has like 20 spin-offs and 30 prequels and 50 reboots. I'm just like, who cares about all of this? A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is fine. It's cool. It's Gucci. But I would have much rather read The Winds of Winter already. If you present to me The Winds of Winter, this is going in the trash. Fuck this shit. I want The Winds of Winter. Right? This is... Okay, listen. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a bit mid. It's a bit mid. A lot of parts is just forgettable stuff. Trivia. Miscellaneous. Right? And I love the fact that George R. R. Martin is not subtle at all when it comes to Bloodraven. When he mentions Brynden Rivers in these three novellas, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, do you remember Brynden Rivers? Wink, the Bloodraven, wink, the sorcerer, wink, he's a bad man, wink, he does bad things, wink. Not subtle at all. Right? And in the last one, the Mystery Knight, at the end, we finally meet the Kinslayer himself, Brynden Rivers. And so far, he seems like a pretty chill dude. I mean, he doesn't seem really that scary at all. He has that classic Targaryen arrogance, but nothing special, right? And I guess, as an ending to this video, that I think we should talk about, the tragedy at Summerhall, because that shit is interesting. And George R. R. Martin has made a lot of promises that he will write novellas about Dunkey and Eggy all the way to the tragedy of Summerhall, but I'm holding my breath because, yeah, sure, bro, you're gonna write more short stories. Sure, George, sure, buddy, wink. But the tragedy of Summerhall, very interesting. Some say it was an inside job. Probably. It makes sense to me. Eggy is now the king, Aegon V, and he is invested in prophecies. He has brought wizards and sorcerers and pyromancers, and he has wildfire, and he does some magic stuff, and, Summerhall erupts in flames, and a lot of people die. Egg die, Duncan dies. And your boy, Rhaegar Targaryen, is born among, smoke and salt. And a lot of people like to say, Duncan saved Rhaegar and his mother, and that was the last heroic thing that he did because he was a true knight, the best knight, the true definition of a knight, honorable, and, that this was his actual mission, because Baelor, Breakspear, or whatever he's called, he died for Duncan, right? He died for Duncan. So his foot saved, his foot got a possible king killed, and his foot saved a possible king in the making, right? Which might be prophecy in of itself. It might be destiny. Who knows? But this is not my theory. But I would like to believe, and this is my theory, my conspiracy theory when it comes to Summerhall. I like to believe that while Iggy was doing his magic stuff and the flames erupted, I like to believe that Duncan saw a vision in the flames, and he saw that if Rhaegar is born, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people will die senselessly, pointlessly. And I would like to believe that Duncan, being a true hero, being a true honorable knight, decided, I gotta take this Rhaegar out. Right? And then he tried to make sure that Rhaegar's mother didn't escape the flames, but somehow he failed, maybe because of his foot. And that is why Rhaegar and his mother survived. It looked like Sir Duncan tried to save them and did, but actually he tried to kill them and failed, and it looked like he was trying to save them. Right? Which is so ironic. I like that. That seems like a really George R. R. Martin thing to do. It looks like Duncan was being so honorable and he died trying to save, Rhaegar and his mother. And he was being honorable. He was being a true knight. He was trying to make sure that Antichrist Rhaegar Targaryen wasn't born. And unfortunately, he failed. Maybe because of his foot. So that is the irony of Duncan the Tall. This is what I like to believe. Right? He is remembered as a hero for all the wrong reasons. Remembered because he saved Rhaegar and his mother, but actually he was trying to make sure that those motherfuckers would not survive, because if you look at it, Rhaegar was pretty much the Antichrist, and he brought forth almost an apocalypse because he snatched Lyanna Stark, if you believe that story, and a lot of people got busy with war, and a lot of people died for no fucking reason. And of course, there is this speculation that Dunkey wasn't even knighted by Sir Arlen, that he made everything up, that he lied. Who cares, really? Doesn't really matter to me. And then there is this mystery in the second book. Somebody starts a fire at Sir Eustace Osgrey's forest, and it is believed that it was Rohan Weber, but she denies it, and it's never revealed who did it, actually. And then in the third book, this dragon egg that is a prize at the tourney, this dragon egg just disappears. And in classic George R. R. Martin fashion, he doesn't give any answers. Not really. It might be that some dwarves took it. There is no there is no answer to this riddle, and the only question is if somebody took this dragon egg, where does this dragon egg, where is its final destination, and for what purpose? Who has taken it, and for what reason? Is it just that somebody stole it because it is a valuable item, or are there more nefarious reasons? And, this might be one of the dragon eggs that Daenerys receives from, what's that guy's name? Mopatis or whatever, Varys's friend, right? Who knows? It could be possible. It could be possible. But that's about it with A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Sir Duncan the Tall is a pretty good character. Everybody else is kind of subpar. The story could have been a whole lot better. And to end it with this, like in the second book, the sworn sword. I mean, it's just about drought and the drought has dried up the river, and Rady Rohan has dammed the river, and it's really hot. It's all the crops are dying, and all the plants are drying up, and it's drought. Don't you know that it's hot outside? And I'm just like, bro, George, come on, bro, come on, it's enough, move on, bro. But George R. R. Martin keeps on going. It's a drought, and it's tough out here when it's a drought, and the food is going, and it's really hot, right? Um, a lot of trivia, Um, these, I don't know, prequels, if you want to call them, they could have had a lot of potential, a lot of foreshadowing, if you would. I mean, there is a hint of foreshadowing here and there, with Duncan's foot and the dragon egg and blah blah blah. but it could have been done so masterfully, right? These novellas could have been outstanding, and the only and the only conclusion that I have arrived at is that George R. Martin wasn't really trying that hard. He was merely having fun with it, sprinkling here a little bit of lore, right? He wasn't trying. He wasn't giving it his all, and it's plain to see. It's plain to see the difference between something like this and his main books of A Song of Ice and Fire. The difference is colossal. This is mid at best, which is unfortunate, because I can see that these novellas had a lot of potential for greatness. They could have been tremendous, but George Martin was just having fun with it. He was just, like I said, it was a diversion, a distraction from his actual work. If you want to support your boy, if you enjoy this content, I have a few books of my own on Amazon. The link will be down below. Thanks for watching. Keep on reading good books, and see ya.